Hello everybody and welcome to sound editing and mixing for film. Week 2, dialogue editing and ambience tracks. And it's going to be a real fun session. So we're gonna look at how do we work with some of the dialogue, how do we what is the best practices for dialogue editing and so on. And then what's really important is we'll review the idea of having a sound design plan, and then the importance of ambient tracks, creating the atmosphere of where we are. Now, a lot of this can be applied for documentary and narrative, so it's in general, but that's really the key thing is dialogue or interview tracks, so any spoken word things, plus then creating some sort of ambient tracks, the room tones. Even in documentaries, you want to create that background atmosphere of what the room tone is. So we're going to look at that concept, and I think that's really crucial. It might seem like it's really simple, but it's a lot easier. We think about music, sound effects, that kind of stuff can be a lot easier to deal with, but the one of the harder things is just getting these basic things where it can just work without any other sound. If you can have great dialogue or great interview sound plus the ambient tracks and background tracks, you don't even need anything else. And that means it's already a solid sound design plan that's not requiring a lot of other stuff. Okay, so what does all this mean? We're gonna get all into this week for week 2. So I just want to start off, I want to thank all our partners in this project. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts, and we have our library partners as well. So we have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Mississauga Beach Public Library. If you haven't heard already, the libraries will be opening in the next, in the coming days. So again, we have digital arts computers available there, and you can go and practice on DaVinci Resolve Studio. It's unloaded on all the computers. There's 2 stations at each library partner, and you can go there and use those computers. So there's no need to worry about having your own computer. We got you covered, and you can get right into it in that fashion. So that's a really great thing to remember. So so let's look at some of let's get right into this and look at some of the dialogue editing and what we're gonna do. So in terms of our overview, we're gonna look at dialogue editing and adding ambient tracks. So the ambience track. So this is usually, I'm gonna be using stuff from sound effects library, but you can just as easily record these ambient tracks during your production or after the production. So one of the best practices that if you're just editing and someone else is shooting or filming these films that you're working on, but you yourself as a independent artist, when it's time to record stuff, make sure you record some room tone as well. This is a really great piece of advice. So room tone or earth tone, like outdoor tone as well, is at least about a minute or more of just the sound as it is when you're there. So imagine sometimes there's air conditioning running, fans. You probably hear a bit of computer fans here from my studio. So that's the ambient sound. There's nothing really has no sound unless you're in a vacuum. So think about any room you're in, there's always a sound. So, if you're in an office, there's ventilation hums. If you're in an airplane, there's the roar of the engines. If you're in a car, there's the roar of the car engine. If you're outside having a walk, you can hear whatever's around you. Forest, kind of urban, rural urban. There might be distant highway, distant train horns, birds, water lapping if you're near the water. So, that's one of those cool things. Wherever you are, if you close your eyes, you can kind of think, okay, what am I hearing at this given time? And that's what we're trying to build and imagine. And also we want to try to add more because some of it is going to help further tell the story. So as I mentioned, if there's a distant train, maybe there's someone coming from the train. So if we hear a train horn and it sounds like a train is arriving, that actually helps us tell the story that perhaps the person arrived on the train and they're now here to and part of the story that they're about to arrive any minute. So that kind of stuff. I think we talked about it last week as well, but that kind of idea of if there's maybe you need a helicopter, police sirens or something, you don't have to necessarily see them visually, but it can really help in the sound part to have that kind of element in there and to be able to do it that way. So so that's a really fun and interesting thing to be able to do. So let's jump into this this process here, and I'm just gonna escape from here and let's go right into Resolve. So I have a section here. I've been just working on a bit of an edit here in our advanced narrative editing. And I think this is a good sample piece that we can actually work with further. So I'm just going to duplicate the timeline, and I'm going to call it rough cut 1 sound editing. Oops, I can't type right now. Sound editing. Dialogue and the ambience. Okay, so I'll make a copy of that. So then what we want to do is we want to really look at this, you know, the dialogue and what's there, what's not there, and what we should get rid of. So what I did right away is if we open up the WAV file and we make it a big, if this audio track, you can really start to see what's in there and what's good, what's not good, and that kind of idea. So what I like to do is, we did that last week as well, as we did the separation of what is dialogue, what's not dialogue. So I'm going to do a new track, and I'm going to make the picture track a bit smaller because I don't need to see that as much. I'm going to make this window a bit bigger, like so. Okay, and then we'll just look at these elements right here. So right away, these kinds of elements, so I'm going to unlink these so I can separate them. So usually if they come in like a stereo link, we need to right click and unlink them. It says link. There's also, I guess, option command L. Let's try that. Option command L. Yep, there we go. That works. Option command L. Option command L. Option command L. So what I'm doing is just separating these so I can actually move them without moving the picture. So what we did last week too, we did that whole idea of putting what's not dialogue on another track. And then I'm going to zoom in here, and then what we can do is we can just use the arrow keys. I'm going to use this razor blade tool, and we'll just cut his breathing, so we'll keep that in the dialogue. And we'll go right up to there. So I'm just using those arrow keys to mark razor blade, cut that. Okay. So now we can leave all that as kind of our sync source track, but we'll keep his like breathing related stuff on the dialogue.
Excuse me.
Right? And you know, zoom right in there. We can then see what's happening. So we'll just have that hit as like a non-dialogue.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb. I noticed you're having a little bit of trouble with your computer. Just let me know if you need a hand. I'll be happy to help.
Yes. Well, as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit. I seem to be making a lot of noise, don't I? Oh, my name is Jeffrey Lincoln. Yes,
And then what we'll do is wherever
Jeffrey Lincoln. Yes.
And then here I'm just going to click on that, and I'm just going to trim with the arrows, so period and comma, left and right.
Yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T. Oh, I've been retired for a few years now, though. Still, those were wonderful years.
And the fun thing is, sometimes we don't see the...
Ah, I have great memories of those wonderful years.
Okay, and again, I'm just gonna do that command, unlink these again. So there's a little bit of a laugh. We can leave that. And then there's a big hit. And we're going to just unlink that one. Option Command L. Razor tool. Cut there. And then we're going to drag that one piece down. When he hits. And now I'm hearing a little bit of a double, like a bit of a double sigh. So what we're going to want to do is, again, I'm just going to unlink that. What we're going to want to do is smooth that out, so we just have one sigh.
Well, listen, so nice to meet you, Bev. You have a great evening. Cheers. Cheers.
Perfect. And then that's our last piece there, like that. So what I'm doing in the dialogue editing is just making sure that, you know, when they talk, I don't really have too much extra from, you know, like before or after. And that's really the key, is just trimming down exactly what we need. So we don't have too much before, we don't have too much after. The next thing I want to look at is what happens if we want to replace different dialogue in the scene.
Excuse me. Hi.
Okay, so she's talking in this shot, but let's have a look at, she says excuse me in her close-ups too.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb.
Right, so maybe we want it from there. So how do we do that? So then what we'll do is we can add another track. And I'm going to move the track up. So then we kind of have, and we'll label this. So we'll go dialogue 1, dialogue 1, this one we'll make into dialogue 2. And this one we're going to call sync. And that's what we determined last week, that that's a good system to do. So now what I'm going to do is,
Excuse.
so we're going to mark that as our endpoint on the timeline. We're going to just choose to take her line only, so we don't want the picture. And we have an in and out here. We'll drop that in.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Okay, and now what we want to do is we're going to line it up. So if we look at these wave files, you can get an idea now of, you know, what's lined up, and it's kind of off right now in that. So let's bring it in closer, and we'll hear it as well. So we want to try to kind of match the area if we can.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb. I'm Barb.
Right, and now what I'm going to do is put a razor just here, and we can leave that. And what I do then is I just put the razor, and I'm going to just mute this, basically turn it off. So we'll go from dialogue 1 to dialogue 2.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb. I notice you're having a little bit of trouble with.
Right, so we just changed, we added a line from her close-up into the wide shots there. And so that's how a great way we can do some great replacement of anything that we might not like as it's being said.
So let me know if you need a hand. I'll be happy to help.
Yes, well, as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit. Seem to be making a lot of noise, don't I? Oh, my name is Jeffrey Lincoln. Don't I?
And here, let's just say, you know, does she have a laugh or something maybe we can use?
Here.
can put her laugh in there, for example. So we're just taking little pieces.
To be making a lot of noise, don't I? Oh, my name is Jeffrey Lincoln. Yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T.
Okay, and let's see if there's, I'm not saying that we need to change a line, but just, what do we do?
As you can tell, I am. Oh yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T. Oh yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T.
So there we can just take that part there and then see if we can, put that in there instead. So same idea, we're going to put it on dialogue 2.
Oh, yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T.
Right, and again, so then what I'll do, we're going to raise or cut that. And the key here is that I never get rid of anything, because in case later in the mix we might want to go back to take 1 versus take 2.
Oh yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T. Oh, I've been retired for a few years now.
Right, so that's just using the different take instead of the first take.
Oh yes, I taught for 25 plus years. My name is Jeffrey Lincoln. Oh yes, I taught for 25 plus years at U of T. Oh, I've been retired for a few years. I taught for 25 plus years at U of T. Oh, I've been retired for a few years now, though. Still, those were wonderful years. Ah, I have great memories of those wonderful years.
So here, we'll just look at this laugh. Can we get a little bit more of her laugh? So it's going to bring it down here.
Years.
So that's kind of nice. I'm just going to put her laugh a little bit earlier.
Well, listen, so nice to meet you, Bev. You have a great evening. Cheers.
And let's just say we want to put a different have a great evening. So we'll just
Say cheers. Have a great evening. Me and here, have a great evening. Cheers. Have a great evening. Meet you, Bev. You have a great.
So let's just get another have a great evening. Let's just for replacement's sake here.
Listen, it's been great to meet you, Bev. Say cheers. See you next time. Have a great evening. And me and here, have a great evening.
Have a great evening. Yeah. So let's just try that and just see how that syncs up.
Have a great evening.
So we're just trying to make it match, and you can hear it like doubling up.
Have a great evening.
Right? So that could be if we want to. Again, this is, I'm not saying it has to happen, but this, in case we needed to change a word, that's how we do it. We just line it up and then put another take right underneath, and then I just mute the top one so I can just roughly get an idea if it's going to work.
Have a great evening. Cheers.
So that's nice. That works. Okay. So now, that's our basic dialogue editing. So we're getting rid of any kind of unwanted parts. We do that separation, so dialogue only, the sync track only, changing takes, alternative takes, replacing them. The other thing we could do is we could actually record as like a voiceover type recording or on a sound recorder, different lines from the actors, and then put them in. That would be the same idea. So you can do it right to picture, and we can do like a voiceover recording in Resolve. Or you can do just to picture to the sound recorder, or what you can do is just like a wild line. So they hear it, have a great evening. He hears it a few times, have a great evening, have a great evening. And then he does a bunch of takes. Have a great evening, have a great evening, have a great evening. And you get all these different types of takes, and then you can just put those in and make them match as best as you can. So the other thing we can do is, you know, if we really needed to do more kind of manipulation, you know, we can look at each word.
Have a great evening. Have a great evening.
Oops. So we can, you know, go word for word, razor cut that, and then we could always move, you know, this thing one frame.
Have a great evening. Have a great evening.
Right, and it's a little bit trickier because, you know, we're basically...
Have a great evening. Have a great evening.
Right, so I'm putting that gap of one frame in there, so I just razor cut it and, you know, put a gap of one frame just to try to make that work.
Have a great evening.
And that could be how we can just put a little bit of a pause. And that one's not necessarily perfect, but we can always put little fades on them here too.
Great evening. Great evening. Have a great evening. Have a great evening. Have a great evening.
Right, so it's not perfect, but that's the idea, that we can, you know, take a frame and kind of squeeze it, cut something and expand it out. So if we need to change different words, so that's also possible, just to cut and then put different words in as well. So, you know, that's the beauty. We can really manipulate things. So now what I'm going to do is, let's look at, you can hear there's a bunch of noise. And what we want to do now is create some ambient tracks. So I'm just going here, I'm going to create a new bin. I'm going to put background tracks. So what we want to do is just build some background so that we can fill it in, have like the kind of atmosphere of this library, bit of people, room tone, and so on. So we're going to look at some options. So we're going to bring a bunch of tracks in, and we want to keep it like a natural sounding thing. So I'm going to probably think of some ventilation, some little bit of crowd noise, and just kind of general ambience of the space. So that's what we're going to do here now. Okay, so I'm going to import media. And I'm just going to go here to sound effects library and sound ideas. I mean, just find some ambience here. So we're just going to kind of go through these tons of different effects here. Let's just try like room tone and see what we kind of show up here. Okay, so room tone. Room tone, very quiet and clean. Let's try that one. Room tone studio. Room tone library. That sounds very positive. Room tone library, here we go. Oops. Quite clean, slight hum. Room tone library. Okay, so let's open some of these. So again, just this static noise, but it's quite nice. So then I'm going to do, let's create some new tracks. And we'll put about 3 of these. So what I'll do is, let's label this one here. I would like to just call it like ambient 1. Ambient 2. And ambient 3. So you can see we're just keep building in tracks. So it's all about a lot of tracks and organization. So ambience 1, so I'm going to take that room tone library tone here, and I'm going to say go to that. So I'm going to hit that orange button there. It's going to go to that. I'm going to overwrite that in. It's going to be longer than what we need. And then I'm just going to drop this down here. So if I click on this, I can just go to like minus, 20 decibels or so. Maybe put a little bit louder. And that's already nice. So what this helps is really even things out. So we'll put another one here. And let's go to the beginning here. See what these sound like. And well, now we're going to get let's find a little bit of a indoor crowd. So we'll try to keep it a little bit less of a busy crowd. Let's try. We'll bring in a few of these and kind of see what can work. Hopefully one of these will work. Okay, so you can see that's really loud. And we'll put it in this top one here, the ambience 1. Okay, we'll put that down. And then we're going to make it a lot quieter, but minus 17, let's try. But what's happening now is we're not going to notice these fluctuations. So watch this as it was before. People come in. Right, so now what we've done, I'm just going to hit S to solo these 3. Now we've created this our own room tone. So what it does is it kind of balances everything out. So I'm turning on that on and off. Right, so now we're able to maintain a consistency through the ambient tracks.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb. I noticed you're having a little bit of trouble with your computer. Just let me know if you need a hand. I'll be happy to help.
Yes, well, as you can see, I'm struggling a little bit. Seem to be making a lot of noise, don't I? Oh, my name is Jeffrey Lincoln. I taught for 25 plus years at U of T. Oh, I've been retired for a few years now, though. Still, those were wonderful years. Ah, I have great memories of those wonderful years. Well, listen, so nice to meet you, Bev. You have a great evening. Cheers.
Okay, so that's great. So that gives us that ambiance that we were thinking about. Now, last week we talked a bit about having some sort of like check-in kind of beeps. So this is, it's, you know, we're getting into a bit of sound effects, but I call this, you know, this is still kind of ambient effects. And I think that's important to think of, is that there's still like the sync sound effects that are like, okay, doors opening, banging, things like that. But there's that ambiance idea where, you know, how do you bring in a little bit of the kind of non-sync, but you hear stuff in the background. So I have some people, we have some hum, we have that. But what about like a check-in system? Like if there's like a beep or something, like a gun beep, like one of those scanner guns, like beep, beep. So let's see if we can find something like that, because I think that would really be an interesting addition for us as well. So let's go right to the library here, and literally gonna just type in beep and see if we have something that's like a yeah, and sometimes you can really use some other things, like, you know, it's showing up like a self timer for you know, camera and things like that. Computer beep. Okay, let's open a few of these then. That sounds kind of neat. So it's already kind of, you know, kind of working in what it could be like. So I'm just going to bring these in. So all I'm doing is, you know, I'll zoom in here. So what I'm doing is just taking the track here and zoom out. We're going to zoom in on the timeline here. And what I can do is, by clicking on this, I can just adjust the levels. So you can see it's going -6 decibels or so. You know, and that's, again, pretty loud. We'll do kind of the final mixing soon. But that's kind of neat. So that kind of gives us that idea. And, you know, I wouldn't put tons of it, but I think now I can just go like this. I can do Command C, I can paste, and kind of randomly paste it in here. Yeah, and this kind of randomness will keep it interesting. So here, let's give this a listen. So that's fine. Now that has a little bit more, I like this heart monitor. That's actually a little more interesting. So let's go with that one. So we're just going to put them in here. And lower that. Too low now. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and kind of paste them in here. And the idea here is just to, you know, kind of establish that there's a checking counter. we don't see the checking counter, but it's, you know, just gives it that idea that so this is, I think, really always important is in the sound design that we want to, you know, really keep that consistent. That, you know, it's happening throughout. Right, so that way, here's the end part with it.
Well, listen, so nice to meet you, Bev. You have a great evening. Cheers.
And voila, we have our, you know, our dialogue, and we have our ambient tracks here. So let's just look again at what we've done so far. And this is really the kind of the first, and you know, sometimes these ambient tracks are called the bed track because they're really kind of the bed or even the foundation of the film, because then the dialogue can continue that way on top. It hides all the little mistakes and nuances and shifts when sometimes you heard before in the dialogue, things got louder, things got quieter, there's less people, more people, and so on. So this gives us a consistency that's a really nice piece. And but just by soloing it, it should help tell the story without seeing anything. So that's pretty neat. So that's like our ambient track with a little bit of that scanning beep as if like books are getting checked in. So that gives us a really nice kind of blend. So then what else did we do? We did a bit of the dialogue idea here as well. Let's look at our dialogue editing. So what we did is we split anything up that was sync, and then we put dialogue above it. So right here you can see there's no dialogue in this bottom part, so I'm just going to solo our sync and our dialogue track. Right, and then we have.
Excuse me.
And then another thing we did is we changed the takes here. So that was an interesting thing. So we took another take. Oops, going back here. We took another take.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb.
Right, and this is what it was like before. The two together.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb. I'm Barb.
Right, so and we don't see her, so we're able to just do that. So then we changed the track, another take. We muted the original take.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Barb. I notice you're having a little bit of trouble with your computer. Just let me know if you need a hand. I'll be happy to help.
Then we added a bit of laugh here.
A noise, don't I? I taught for 25 plus years at U of T.
We changed his line there. I taught for 25 plus years. Kept the laugh in there.
Hey, Bev, you have a great evening.
And have a great evening. We put a little bit of a gap there.
You have a great evening.
And you might sound like, oh, there's a bit of a chop there, but watch with the ambience. We don't even notice it.
Hey, Bev, you have a great evening. Cheers.
it just sounds like he stumbles a bit. So you can, play with that a little bit where there's a little bit of a gap and we need it to fit. So that was it. That was our dialogue editing, our ambience, and adding a little bit of that tone, the beep tone for like books checking in. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to continue on this. So we're going to add all our sound effects. So we're going to put like keyboards typing. We're going to add in foley, like human sounds. So footsteps walking. And we're going to look at maybe a little bit of some music, maybe for the beginning and the end, just kind of like a music piece. And that will finish our sound design, sound editing. And then for the last week, we're going to just do the whole session on mixing and perfecting the mix and getting everything done. So right now I've been doing some of the leveling, just like I showed you with the, if I go right in here and I'll just zoom in. So we can do some quick leveling right in the timeline just by going on the tracks and then just going up or down the volumes. And that's just for presentation. I like to have it a bit leveled because otherwise the ambient tracks can be really loud.
Have a great evening.
Right, so like let's say this ambient track as recorded, it would be this loud. Then you can't hear anything. So this is basically like a pre-mix. So I'm just kind of making it.
Have a great evening.
Making it so that I can hear what's going on. I know that it's working, and then I'm happy. But really more of a pre-mix before we get into anything kind of final on that. So yeah, so that's really the key. So it's really important just to have that. As I spill my drink here, it's really important to just have that idea of the each track, the ambient tracks, the bed tracks, and any kind of gaps, missing dialogue or sync tracks get filled in with the ambient tracks. And that's really, the big takeaway in how important that ambient background tracks are in making this all work in the best way possible. So yeah, that's our session. You can email me. It's Tom at tbmcs.ca if you have any questions. So you can I'll put that in the chat here as well, so you can send me any kind of questions you have. So Tom at tbmcs.ca. So send me emails about sound editing, sound design. So see if you can do that. You can even record your own ambience track as well. So you can use a recorder. So if you're with the library partners, you can go and take out a sound recorder with our library partners at the Wasaga Beach Public Library and the Blue Mountains Public Library. And otherwise, you can even just try using your phone. You can record like a memo and just get that ambience. Like if you're outside, you need the ambience, or if you're inside, it's really easy to get that done. Otherwise, there's tons of sound effects online. A lot of there's free low-cost libraries, so feel free to check those out. And we're going to be adding some libraries as we move forward into the library partner digital arts computer station. So those iMacs will have a little bit of a sound effects library as well coming soon. So that's going to be happening. So that's another thing. So you can rewatch this session, same link right here. Feel free to do that, and then you can look at practicing some of these concepts, and any kind of dialogue scene. You can just record a quick scene again with friends and family on a phone, bring it into Resolve, and then practice that dialogue splitting and so on. Take a favorite film scene. You can get a piece of script somewhere, write a quick scene, and then try that out. So check that out. So next week, sound effects, Foley, music. We're going to kind of finish that up and then get into the mixing for after. But it's really important. So far we've done the planning, the initial splitting, dialogue editing, ambient is really, really important. I think sometimes it's rushed through and not done, and it's not great when you hear all these different sounds or mistakes in the dialogue. When you can try to fix it up, find better takes, and make sure that what you hear is really what you want to hear. You don't have things that you don't want to hear, and then we can kind of hide it a little bit with those background tracks as well. So really exciting process. Just want to thank all our partners again. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts. We have all our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and Wasaga Beach Public Library. Thanks for joining us, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.